On episode 28 of Around the Coin, Mike Townsend, Brian Romley, and Faisal Khan discuss what the CEO of Starbucks is planning to do with the most successful mobile payments app in the world. Also, Amazon's secret plan to combine same-day delivery, payments, and the new Fire Phone. Lastly, we discuss the release of the brand new Stellar cryptocurrency.
Good morning, everyone. We are at episode 28 of Around the Coin with Brian and Faisal. Another exciting topics for today. We're going to be talking about a bit of Howard Schultz recent news through Amazon, some related payment news on WeChat's front, a new YC-backed payment startup, and then objectively discuss, we promised objectively before the show, the Stellar new cryptocurrency launch. So with that, how's everyone doing?
Wonderful.
Doing good. How about you?
I am great. I'm excited. Brian, we have a little tradition of starting with you. You get the excitement up. What do you think about the first category of the Howard Schultz Amazon action?
Wow. I call this retailers coming into payments. And I've predicted this for quite a long time, much to my demise with a lot of startups that absolutely thought that this was an impossibility. Howard Schultz has been, I would say this guy has reinvented himself dozens of times through his career. I mean, he started out as an IBM salesperson many years ago, and here he is running one of the, probably next to Apple, one of the most successful retail operations in the world. And he's been around payments a lot lately. I think you can probably pretty much say they're smaller companies, but the big company he started with was Groupon. He was there very early as an advisor and board member, and then at a very concise point left the board and moved on. And that was before the IPO. And I think he saw things inside of Groupon that he probably concluded was not such a good, long, viable plan. And I think one of the things I know he's mentioned, at least I think it is publicly, but it is now, is that overloading smaller merchants with too many offers will actually be the demise of their business. And Rocky Agarwal and quite a few other people, but Rocky most specifically analyzed that particular scenario quite a long time ago. And I seen it early on with my own merchants, just asking questions. You can't give 200 Groupons to a coffee shop that only does 200 transactions a week or so. It will decimate them if those people show up in 3 days. And then there's more to it than that. But anyway, he moved on, and then he appeared at Square. And almost 1 year later, he removed himself from the board.
Now, what's the deal, Brian? Why did he do that? What was released, or what do you think?
I cannot speak to anything that's not public. I can say that at some point in the future, the details of this would be very, very clear. But let's infer. How can we infer? First off, nobody goes on to a board position with a predetermined expiration date. It's not done that way. When it was announced that Howard was going to be on the board, it was a series of things that took place all at the same time. What were the series of things? We're going to partner with Square for them to be our payment service provider. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be that way. Not a single transaction really goes through Square's computers right now. It's primarily being run by Chase Payment Tech. And there's a lot of logical reasons. There's a lot of Visa and MasterCard rule reasons. There's a lot of banking law reasons why this is a bank-to-merchant relationship. Primarily because Starbucks never paid the rate structures that the average merchant would pay. When you look at the interchange chart, they are in a category on Visa's chart called CPS Retail Performance Threshold, probably number 2, maybe number 1. And what that is essentially a huge discount over and volume that they're doing over what smaller merchants would pay because of the dollar volume that goes through their system. So it was funny. Reporters were asking me when this deal went down, is Square going to be charging 2.75% to Starbucks? I mean, that would essentially bankrupt the company. There's not even the logic of that happening. It would bankrupt both companies because not only could the low tickets that Starbucks has hurt Square's business model because they're really not making money on sub $5 transactions under any circumstance. It would also injure Starbucks because as their transactions grow, they lose tremendous amounts of money. Needless to say, it's almost like they have a negotiated rate with Visa to a certain extent. And one may argue that that is in fact the case. So this is a bank to merchant type of scenario. Chase Payment Tech is the acquirer for Square. Square is a facilitator for Chase Payment Tech, and to some degree, Wells Fargo and First Data also.
So, do you believe there's any sort of symmetry there between Square and Starbucks at all? Do you think they missed any opportunity?
The initial premise was very pure, and that was Square was going to bring innovation, startup energy to Starbucks payment systems. That was the premise. It's very logical. It's on the surface. And I would say the most incredible PR campaign I've ever seen in my life took place during that announcement. It was a thing of beauty. You had Howard Schultz and Jack Dorsey appearing on morning news shows, PBS. I mean, we're talking about they were for almost 3 days on TV everywhere. And I had people, relatives far away that just tangentially knew I was in payments, call me up and said, I saw this young guy and the president of Starbucks talking about a new payment, and this is going to be great. The PR was amazing. What was the PR piece on? A new way to pay that essentially Square was creating, which we now know as Square Wallet. So here we are, getting more publicity than any payment system I've ever seen, right, by far. And essentially, Starbucks was trying to present the notion that they were going to adopt this pay with your name type of strategy in the Square Wallet, and then ultimately the Square payment processing solution, getting rid of those ugly terminals and replacing it with a really nice iPad. It never happened. And Howard was on the board of directors, obviously during a very intense period of time for Square. They were trying to expand beyond a card reader on a small, for a small merchant on an iPhone, and to try to upmarket into higher retailers. And this was to be that step up. The end result is, and you can, look at this forensically. The end result is Howard left the board, and he started his own payment company. So one can infer whatever one can infer by that. But here's the other thing that happened. Within 2 weeks of him leaving the board, every single Square reader was essentially thrown away at all of the Starbucks stores, which was an incredibly bad idea anyway. And I argued against it to anybody who would listen to me within that company. Please don't put your Square readers inside a retail beverage and food store. Please don't do that, because it is a juxtaposition and will ultimately damage your brand. It just sounded so cool. People wanted to do it. So be it. The brand was damaged because of that, and I can demonstrate it. The next thing was Howard started speaking at investor calls that their payment technology and mobile payment technology is the most superior technology in the industry at that moment. And he had the data to back it up. I mean, we're looking at, as it stands today, and this is, quite a few months since he first announced it, they have 6 million mobile payment transactions a week. That's by far the largest anywhere in the United States. It certainly doesn't challenge Alibaba in China, but that's a completely different system. And we're looking at that growing over 15% year over year. It's actually, if you really calculate it out, it's actually much higher. There's over 12 million mobile wallet users within using the Starbucks system. So he certainly has the right to brag to a certain level that he's been successful. But what is so unusual is Howard feels so emboldened by what payments represents to Starbucks that he not only made it a C-level function, it's a CEO function, a CFO function within the organization, which is unheard of. And now it's less unheard of. Since he made that announcement almost a year ago, I've talked to a number of executives at major retail companies that have now adopted the Starbucks philosophy, and they're looking radically. looking for payment domain experience, people who have direct empirical praxis domain experience about payments. So this is really charged up retailers. That's number one. Number two, he announced publicly that it is such an opportunity for Starbucks that they are essentially going to find a way either to integrate or spin off a standalone company to help other large and perhaps small retailers to accept payments through their system. But it's not just a payment system. It's an entire 360 system that integrates a great deal of logistical information, rewards, certainly payments, and insights. Let's call them insights because it's not just big data. It's actually conclusive insights about why certain things are working so well and why certain things aren't working so well. And only a retailer can build that, or a startup that really listens to retailers, because startups generally just say, we're going to give you, turns out you sell more umbrellas on rainy days, or it looks like Tuesday evenings you get more business. Well, that's because across the street Tuesday there's an off-Broadway show and everybody comes in. See, what Starbucks has, they're not just telling you, this is their own data inside of Starbucks, and I'm assuming they're going to share some of it. They're going to tell you some of the reasons why these things happen, and that's what makes it so powerful. So that is a big story right now. Howard last week had an investor call, and I'll read you exactly what he said. The mobile transaction platform is still in nascent stages. There is an opportunity to extend the value to our customers in ways we have not shared. Mobile order and pay, mobile order, this is where Starbucks is moving to, and they've tested it at over 60 stores. I've tested it. It's incredible. It is the best mobile ordering system I've ever seen. I'll go on to what he said. Mobile order and pay will be the fastest and easiest way for customers to order, pay for, and pick up their purchases. Once again, demonstrating the leading position Starbucks has in all things mobile. Customers continue to embrace our industry-leading technology mobile app, and it is increasing in numbers. Finally, he says, by integrating mobile, loyalty, payment, and in-store digital experiences, we are creating game-changing technologies and experiences for our customers and opportunities to introduce new lines of businesses for our company. Now, the last investor call, he literally said, we're going into the payments business. And now some people read it as he's taking a step back. As far as I'm concerned, those 3 paragraphs are even more aggressively planting the flag.
And Brian, it sounds like, that he's just describing the success of the app he has, right? I'd imagine he's just going to keep pushing forward on that. A couple numbers are...
The last sentence.
They do...
Last sentence. Opportunity to introduce new lines of payment, new lines of business for our company is where he's going with that.
So they do $6 million a week in transaction volume.
No. 6 million transactions. He's not telling you the dollar amount at this point. You can average it out to be about, let's call it 450 as a U.S. average. This is just in the United States.
And 12 million active users.
Yes. And I'm talking really active users. The use of the wallet is just exploding. So we can learn by that. But here's what I do know.
15%. The last one I had was 15% of all their transactions were through the mobile app.
Yes, and it's growing about by 15% over year. And here's what I do know. There are at least 7 retailers that are already testing Starbucks. I know of one that I've seen the system white labeled already in very early alpha testing, and it is amazing. But here's something that's interesting. What's interesting is Starbucks has a very, very close relationship with Apple. I'll leave it at that. Starbucks has a very close relationship with Apple, and Apple loves Starbucks. If you look at, I posted recently, Apple just showed a new patent, which was back in 2012 when they filed it, about essentially a wallet application using Passbook. And one of the wallet cards is Starbucks, and one of the use cases is loading up transaction money for Starbucks payment system. So one can draw their own conclusion, but
what would be hypothetically, what would be your conclusion?
My conclusion is very large companies like Apple, who really want to understand payments, spend an inordinately large amount of time truly doing research and truly reaching out to the community of people who have direct empirical praxis and try to understand how merchants really operate, how consumers really operate, and don't assume anything. They don't start the question out, wouldn't it be cool? Which is great if you're starting a social network. But if you're trying to create an extension of an existing payment system, because that's all these guys are ever doing, unfortunately, you don't start out with, wouldn't it be cool? You look at where things are really broken and you make it amazingly more conducive for a consumer to move in another direction. So the other news, another retailer that is slowly leaking out what they're doing is Amazon. Amazon released about 2 weeks ago. Nothing to see here. We're releasing a wallet. No big deal. Look the other way. Don't write about it. Don't care about it. All right. Then all of a sudden, somebody, I have no idea who, leaked that Staples has an SKU, a product in their inventory that's going to be released on August 12th. That is an Amazon card reader. And this is blowing a lot of people's minds because, at two ends of the spectrum at least, and there's more retailers that are going to get into payments, by the way. It'll be even more mind-blowing. But again, this was aggressively debated back 2 years ago when I started bringing it up. I go, Amazon's going to aggressively get involved in retail payments. They're going to pick the right time and the right moment. But if you're going to be in payments as a startup, understand you're going to deal with Apple. You're going to deal with Starbucks potentially or other retailers. You're going to deal with certainly PayPal when they're activated, Facebook, a few other companies. And if you built your product around the notion that these companies were going to enter into the field of payments, you would be very successful because there's so many opportunities that exist knowing what these companies' premises are going to be. And it's pretty easy to deduce what their premises are going to be. Now, Amazon's entry is going to, by middle of August, we're going to probably have a show talking about it. And the narrative would be by media who are researching this and trying to write stories, and then the ones that are just running press releases. And of course, a lot of the startups are going to be, oh, that's just a clone of Square, clone of PayPal, no big deal. Until you start realizing that payments is not what Amazon is about. It's about logistics and inventory management. And it's about getting involved in the most unsexy, unknown part of retail. And that's called the back-end supply chain and the wholesale side of retail. And then all of a sudden, all of this makes sense. Once you understand where Amazon is coming from and the fact that they can give away payments transactions for free or even pay merchants to use the system, that's when it's time to change your underwear. I mean, that's when you start waking up and you say, how can we compete with Amazon? The answer to that is you can't and you won't.
So I'm picturing Amazon, Jeff Bezos up in the clouds with a maniacal grin on his face.
No, he's laughing.
What is it about Amazon other than purely their scale that allows them to come in and potentially crush everyone else? Because they haven't done it yet.
65% of Amazon, this will come out at the end of this year, 65%, last year was 58%. 65% of Amazon transactions are by merchants that are not Amazon, okay? So that's already happening. So Amazon is, and this started almost 2 decades ago. A lot of people were waking up and like saying, Amazon doesn't want to sell anything. They're giving independent merchants, millions of them, and they're making them into millionaires by selling the very same things that Amazon are selling, and sometimes even more than Amazon, and sometimes slightly less. And they're giving it away to these people. Why are they doing it? Because they don't understand Jeff Bezos' maniacal laugh in the cloud. They also didn't understand why AWS. A lot of people a few years ago didn't even understand what AWS was, which is Amazon's cloud service that every single startup that I know of pretty much has to touch AWS. And that was a maniacal sort of strategy.
Yeah, it sure was.
They control it. I'm sure you're on AWS, right? In some incidences. All right, so this is Amazon's strategy, and most of the startup culture doesn't have any desire to study history or what led up to something. They just sort of hear it from a few VCs who wind up becoming godfather to the company. And a lot of times VCs have their own agenda, and other times let's not bum out the startup guy.
Sure.
So anyway, we go back to Amazon. So what is their secret thing? Well, Amazon's the largest purchaser of thousands of items in the world. And they sometimes beat Walmart, which is they are jockeying position for some items by magnitudes. So that makes them the largest wholesale buyer. That also makes them the largest potential wholesale distributor of goods. Now, Amazon is just slowly leaking out their distribution model. But let me give you a premise. You're the last stationery store in your small town. Staples and all these other companies came and some of them left, yet you still survive. And where are you buying your goods? You're buying your goods from the normal supply chain. Let's use a very simple scenario, a case of copier paper. So a case of copier paper, you're buying directly from a distributor. He's got a markup, and then maybe he's buying it from a regional distributor and so on. There might be 5 people in that supply chain before it gets to the manufacturer. But you got a decent price and you compete with Staples. Then somebody at Amazon calls you up. And maybe it's called Amazon Wholesale, and maybe it's called something else, and says, oh, I see that you're buying a lot of paper. And let's imaginary a price here of you're paying $9.95 a case in your quantity. Would like to sell it to you for $6. Do you say no? Or you say yes? Yes. You say yes. All right. And you don't even care who's selling it to you as long as it's not illegal or whatever. You're saying, okay, then let's just say either at the same time or later, saying, I'd like to send you some customers. Do you mind? The only thing I ask you is you get to charge whatever your normal price is. The only thing I ask you is that you use our payment system. And do you say no or do you say yes? I think you say yes. And they might even go with real big data. They might say, our systems know for a fact that every week 39 people buy cases of paper and they want it today. We'd like to send you at least 39 people. We're not going to guarantee it, but our data has been pretty solid for the last 14 years. How would you like that? Yes. Only thing you have to do is use our payment system. And guess what our payment system costs? Nothing.
Zero.
So we're going to supply you the paper at $6 a case. You're now paying $10. We're going to send you a customer. Here's what we want you to do. We want you to download this app. And we're going to tell you very much like you're an Uber driver when the customer is near your door, and we want you to package it up with this pretty sticker and label. And if the customer requests, put it in the back of their trunk and wave them on. And if they want to come in and buy other things, you're perfectly okay in doing that. And if you want that customer's email address and you want to invite them in and give them wine and cheese, you're fine. We don't care as long as you don't damage your relationship with that customer. Are you going to say no to that? No, you aren't. But when the media first gets word of the fact that Amazon is going to be getting involved in small retail businesses, the first thing they go, oh, they're competing with Amazon. I can tell you that 65% of businesses on the internet that are using Amazon's platform is certainly competing with Amazon, and they're winning. And I can personally tell you, I know 5 people, and probably more, but very clear, they are multimillionaires simply because they opened up a store on Amazon and sell exactly some of the things that Amazon sells, and they differ sometimes between a penny or two. And in a lot of cases, all they do is they go to a wholesaler, ship the goods directly to Amazon's warehouse, and then collect the fees. And the only thing that they do is they sit in front of their dashboard and every now and then play with prices. And this has been going on for quite a long time. These are people who are very brilliant, but they've been able to find this niche. And that niche was built, this business opportunity was built by Jeff Bezos. So Jeff is now extending the one-click purchase to retail. This is something that is powerful.
What do you think the experience is like? So like literally when you walk into a retail location that is using the Amazon, one retail click experience, what happens differently? Do you take out your credit card? Do you swipe it the same way?
No.
Do you
don't
say
swipe
your
anything.
name?
It's paid for. It's like an Uber car, right? When you go there, you just pick it up. You see.
Okay,
right.
but walk me through.
It's like a package waiting for you?
Yes.
But say you go into a hardware store and
I'm
you
going to
pick
give
out.
you the buying experience for the case of paper.
Okay.
You're sitting there and you're a business and you got to run a whole lot of reports. You go to Amazon and you click on and you're Amazon Prime, but you're going to try to order this overnight. Amazon pops up a little map and says 2 minutes away They'll tell you exactly how many minutes away. They'll show you on a pin map. 2 minutes away, you could pick this up at Joe's stationery store. And you're like, wow, I forgot Joe still had a store there, right? And if you click here, you pay for it, and it'll be ready for you in X number of minutes.
Okay, so you're still buying through Amazon.com. This is not when I go to a grocery store and find things. And
this is just one element. The Amazon model is going to be quite complex. I'm actually just pizza slicing off one of the pieces of this really great pizza pie. This one has anchovies on it, maybe. But if you look at it, what they're doing, and I'm not saying this is going to happen on August 12th. On August 12th, what you're going to see is basically a card reader. And you might want to ask why a company pre-announced their EMV card reader is not going to come out anytime soon. You might want to ask why. Why would you announce something that you don't have because something else is going to happen August 12th?
You probably won't require an EMV card reader later.
No. It just may be the product that Amazon's coming out with is EMV. I'm not going to stand 100% behind that. I'm just going to leave it up to what fate brings. But
I mean, that would be a brilliant move. You convert 7 or 8 million retailers and say, hey, throw that machine away, become EMV compliant.
No. Well, yeah, that's one thing, but it's not going to happen that way. People don't throw away machines. I wish they did, but they don't. And there's 1,000 reasons. We can do 5 shows about that. But let's get back to the Amazon, one element of the Amazon model. Will we see this model in place next month? Absolutely not. Amazon is going to piecemeal this model out. First off, the Amazon wholesale supply chain logistics division is already out there. I already know some retailers that are buying some of their goods wholesale from Amazon. Now let's look at the biggest cost Amazon experiences. I'm going to field it to both of you guys. What do you think is the largest cost Amazon has as an aggregate of all their other costs? It's not advertising. It's not hosting.
Shipping?
Logistics. What if I can start creating my entire logistical warehousing, not entire, but let's say a significant portion of the almost real time, located not in my warehouse, but in somebody else's real estate, called a local retailer. Now all of a sudden I've solved my logistics problems, right? Because get this, what would you rather do? If I knew I had to send 39 cases of paper to an area that's serviced by the store and I had to pay shipping 39 times, is it more logical for me to ship it once to one retailer with one big shipment, and I can use bulk shipping charges that are 1,000 times less costly, or do I let FedEx and UPS and OnTrack deliver it and literally take away almost all my profit? It is a brilliant move. But it's not just logistics.
Near real time,
instant gratification. Drones involved.
It's beautiful.
Brian.
I can't stop thinking that if they have so many thousands of retailers in their program, they just might become sort of the Western Union of physical world.
I love it. And the thing is, this is instant gratification. And you're going to start finding out, and Amazon knows this, there are certain things that we will drive 3 minutes for to get right now. And you don't want to wait for a locker. You don't want to wait for a drone. You want to get it right now. But Amazon is taking local mobile commerce. They will. I know this is going to happen, so I'll say it is happening. But they will take mobile local commerce and completely invert it. And they will become the pure company they always wanted to be. And that is a facilitator of existing infrastructure. And I've been trying.
And if they tell Joe, hey, listen, for $7 more, if you're willing to drop it to his house, he'll give you the $7 more.
Now you're really thinking that is the ultimate. That's the ultimate extension of this.
Or Faisal, do you guys think that Amazon eventually, to me, I don't understand quite why they work with FedEx and UPS instead of building their own? Do they eventually?
Too much money.
Well, do they eventually shift? Do they move into that?
It costs too much money. They do not want to get involved in the logistics of moving big boxes. If you look at Amazon, whenever anybody's really complaining about Amazon, it's usually their warehouse workers and just how difficult it is. I don't know if you guys have ever walked into an Amazon major distribution center, but they are sometimes 6 or 7 football fields long. I mean, it's
and highly automated.
So why not build a shipping?
Because
logistics is not an easy business, my friend. It's a very, very complex business.
You're dealing with fuel. You're dealing with politics. You're dealing with weather. You don't want that problem. See, Amazon.
I'll give you an idea that I know for a fact that Walmart, which has all this amazing shipping network, at one time employed more than 100 PhDs in specializing in operations research. Yep. And they had their own satellite, just to track and keep track of how they could deliver goods more efficiently. So it's not an easy field, but if they're doing this, who knows? They just might end up buying, who knows, the USPS even.
I know. I wonder why not.
If
Walmart could do it, why Amazon sure as hell could.
So let me cap this off. Speaking of Walmart is public enemy number one to Amazon, and what I'm asserting here in this is highly theoretical. All right, but I know all the pieces that are in place, so I'm not even speculating. I'm looking at gravity at work. But you won't hear anybody talking about this for quite a while. All of a sudden, what I just said here, and I've been saying this for 2 years to startup founders that would listen, what I'm saying here will all of a sudden just start to appear out of nowhere. And people will start with their hand plant to their head saying, why didn't I think of that first? Well, guess what? This was thought about almost a decade ago. And it's been the slow movement. Amazon would be happy as can be, if they don't physically sell a single item anymore, that they only facilitate the sales of items. And by the way, the consumer actually doesn't care. The consumer just cares about the instant gratification. So they're taking what everybody thinks is sort of a modern concept that we're seeing within Uber and wrapping the payment up into the experience. And they've actually already thought about this. But one click at retail is going to be radically different. There are other elements, by the way. I mean, the other thing is when Amazon comes out, I'm pretty sure their pricing is going to be somewhat aggressive. Amazon, again, has the ability to essentially beat anybody in the marketplace. And if you are acquiring the merchant through price, let me tell you one real reality. It's like gravity. You're going to lose a merchant through price.
Yeah.
And I don't care how sexy your software is. If the software is good enough and you acquired because of price, because you don't have a transaction fee and you don't have a monthly fee and it's so fast and so easy, guess how you're going to lose them? The same way. And this has been the way I've been trying to instruct startups for a long time in payments.
And I wonder too if you have the Amazon local Get It Now experience, right? You have all these products around you and you can immediately get them. The sort of Uber for real life products. Then what if the App Store analogy to Apple, the reason why iPhone is so special is you can only get it through the Amazon phone. So if you want if you want to order immediately and get it now, like the Amazon Prime, you have to have our phone. But if not, if you want to wait a few days, go ahead and get an iPhone. That's fine.
Did you actually thought that up in real time, right?
Yeah.
All right. So guess what? That's definitely part of the strategy. The Fire Phone is just a small piece of a strategy for instant gratification. If there's one thing Amazon knows, without a doubt, they can not only know this, they can predict it. They pretty much know what you want, and they pretty much know where you want, when you want it. And they can pinpoint, they can look at stores on a map, and they can say, we can contact this. It's no marketing involved. You literally call up the merchant on the phone. I'd like to send you 275 customers. They're going to buy these items, and we're going to supply it to you at a much lower cost than your current distributors. Are you in or are you out? We can call the next guy. He's just a few miles down the road. It's not as optimized, but are you in or you're out? And it's not even like it's like a mafia leaning on you. It's how could you say no to this? And then if you look at the offerings of Square, PayPal, or anybody else, you're not even thinking in the same realm.
Yeah.
And so if you're a startup company that wants to be in payments and you knew this 2 years ago, question is, what products would you have created?
Yeah, very exciting.
Would be here in 2014. Now, what products would you have created in 2014 to predict Amazon doing this that would give you a defensible position? Because the fact is, most payment companies don't have a defensible position against this because they didn't think it was going to happen. And that's why you understand history. That's why you try to reach out for experience. And you don't just say, wouldn't it be cool? Because that's not how this started. Amazon didn't start this delivery mechanism because wouldn't it be cool that we can deliver things to local stores? It was completely reversed. They created a platform, looked at the data science, the way data science should be done, and then drew inferences and said, wow, we can put a person right there at Joe's stationery store, and we can sell 500 reams of paper a month, 700 boxes of staples, et cetera.
True.
And it will cost us less, and we'll make more money.
Okay,
and Joe will be happy.
Let's change gears a little bit. One of the things we were talking about before the show was the kind of emergence of this new train of thought, I'll call it, Faisal, with the communication being the valuable tool, the piece of the puzzle, rather than the actual back-end payment infrastructure. With that, why don't you, Faisal, clarify my gibberish and explain what's going on?
Sure. Well, we were talking about how Alipay is going to be doing an IPO and how big it's going to get. So Brian and I were just sort of chatting about it and saying, well, I'd be interested to see which company in the Western world would be the first to go and sort of connect with Alipay or WeChat, one of the big guys, because no doubt about it, WeChat is one of the largest wallet players in China, about 355 million active users. And by connection, I don't mean being able to go directly onto the payment layer. I mean, who would be able to connect their messengers natively? So I think that in the coming, years, we might see an emergence of the messaging layer sort of becoming just like the disparate layer, mail was before the internet came in and then the SMTP brought them all together. I think we might see the same thing on the messaging layer. So you could be a WeChat user and you could talk very, smoothly without any friction to a BBM user or an MSN user or Google or even Skype. And once you have this messaging layer connected, I think the payment layer on top, which is what everyone wants to do, which is what Facebook wants to do with their Messenger, which is what WeChat and all the other guys are already doing, which is what's happening with M-Pesa in Kenya, etc. Will just automatically come over there and be able to be exchanged, so to speak. If I can't communicate with let's say I use Messenger and you use WeChat. Now, there's no way you and I can communicate until one of us downloads the other app. And even if we do, then, you have your own sets of rules. I have my own set of rules. You have your own bank account. I have my own bank account. WeChat operates in China. It doesn't operate in the US. So I basically can't send money to you. But if I had my own messaging app on Messenger and you had your WeChat, and if we both had money and we could talk to each other, it's very possible that money can be exchanged. So I think that's where things will eventually go. I don't think so. I think that it may even be an emergence of a new protocol now that, almost every week some protocol or the other is coming out in the money space using Bitcoin or Ripple as its, principle. So I, for one, think that, players who do it right may just look at the messaging layer, try to bring a convergence into it, aggregate all the messaging platforms into one, and then, sort of bring payments on top.
Faisal, I was going to say, Faisal,
you see payments. You see payment. I was just going to say, do you see payments deeply integrated within chatting and messaging and communication? You see that as continuing on in its trajectory?
So I think everything that we do in the digital space is sort of a model of what we do in the physical space. So one of the first things when I see someone I have never met before is I talk to them. I say hello. So that's a form of communication. If you take that conversation to a next level, it's trade, right? So I'm going to pay you for something or you pay me for something, etc. So it's built on top of the communication layer. Now, let's think about this thing. Let's say I have no communication skills and I want to pay. And I want to pay across border. So let's say I go to China, I don't speak the language, I don't know the currency, I'm only holding US dollars, and I get a bill for, 100 Chinese yuan, whatever it is. How do I pay? I can't communicate. So I don't think so you can have a payment layer without the communication layer first. In real life, we talk to each other. That's how we build rapport, we build connections, and then we sort of take that connection onto one step higher and say, okay, let me trade with this person. Let me give them money or let me receive money from them.
I love it.
Faisal, one of the more interesting facts I learned recently was that the team who created Skype, Janice Frias and
TransferWise?
what's TransferWise, Nicholas Zenstrom, the kind of magic behind what they did, which is not obvious, is that the technology that enables Skype to become a reality is the same technology they used in Kazaa. And the same technology they use in RDO, and they actually started a couple other companies. But if you look at those, those massive companies now with Kazaa and Skype and RDO, they were all owned by a parent company, which actually was where the IP for the communication layer sat. So while Microsoft purchased Skype, they actually didn't purchase the parent company that created or holds the IP, which was used to create RDO. So these guys, as brilliant as it was, the Swedish team, they basically came up with this amazing technology, and then basically skinned it or used it in various applications, but never sold that off. So in starting RDO, which is a fairly recent company compared to Skype and Kazaa, they built this sort of peer-to-peer or this network communication layer, which they just creatively discovered various applications for and made them into freaking monster businesses. But it's something that's not obvious, right?
I mean, look at it this way. If you and I are chatting and I want to send you a smiley, I can do so, but I can only do so if you're on the same platform as I. If I want to send you a file, what do? I can't. I cannot send you a file. And you know where companies like Dropbox come in? That's where they come in, because they say, listen, you could be using anything. The common denominator is Dropbox. Just throw it into Dropbox and give it to the other person. They can retrieve it. So now, right now, the communication, there's a disparity. There's an ocean in between the two players who want to communicate with each other natively, and they cannot.
So now the question is, you have this protocol, right? Like a Dropbox or a Skype, whatever. How does a merchant layer grow on top of that? Like, if we use email and the simple protocol that we're all using.
I think you'll have eventually things like market makers who will come like the merchant layers. They essentially would be people who would be operating cross-border servers, essentially taking payment from one. If the payment is being sent from Mike to Brian, and both of you are in different countries, there would be an engine in between, a market maker in between, or a licensed entity in between that basically, the system would find this licensed entity that connects the two countries and say, hey, would you like to do this transaction? So say, yep, I'll take Mike's money, and sure, I'll give Brian his money because I'm present in both countries.
I see. Wow. And how does this play off into...
Think of it like a submarine cable operator. They connect two countries. They're taking protocol. Their tentacles are physically located in both the locations. So if I'm sending a message of money across in US dollars to you, and let's say you're in British pounds, the system would find the most optimum path that connects you and the other party with the two currencies and someone who's willing to pick up the trade. And an automated system will say, yep, I'll do it because I work with US dollars and I work in GBP, and this is my rate.
So we were talking before the show about a famous CEO that made a slip during an investor call. You want to dive in on your feelings?
You can't say the name, though. You have to discuss it without saying the name. I'm kidding.
It's just going by my protocol here. Okay, so let's talk. Let's dive in this.
So the CEO of Facebook, actually, Mark Zuckerberg, on an earnings call, it was he was basically irked by someone who said something, in fact, it's Mark Mahaney from RBC Capital, and he asked why he poached David Marcus to run a PayPal from PayPal just to run Messenger. That's like signing up Messi up to the Miami Heat.
All right,
it's a little odd of a transition. Are we looking at it wrong? Is there any particular reason why he wouldn't be more focused on payments, quote unquote?
He should have called you up, Faisal, because you knew this.
I've been advocating this thing. I think I've been an evangelist for Facebook payments for a long, long time, and I will be. But they said, Zuckerberg did take it, find this a little bit insulting, but then he came to the defense and he said, we are here to do it. We will do it right. And it's not something, and I want to quote, he says, so to the extent of any of your models or reflects anything that we might be doing that, I would strongly encourage you to adjust. I would strongly encourage you here to adjust that because we are not going to, and we are going to take our time to do this in the way we think that's going to be right over multiple years, unquote. Wow. So they are going to take payments. They are going to do it. Again, it's building, it's all these laws. There's so many laws. And then what do you do? What are we making? Are we looking at just domestic remittances? Are we looking at international? Are we looking at the merchant layer? Are we looking at the banking layer? Are we going to be stopped midway because some guy's going to come and say, well, hold on, that's a monopoly right there.
Yeah, that's something you have to worry about with Facebook.
Yes, absolutely. Are we going to have someone who say, hold on, are we going to have the big Lebowski, or whom I call Ben Lowski, from the New York Department of Financial Services come and say, hey, well, here, guys, here's $100 billion fine for you. How's that?
Yeah. I could say this, that David, you cannot pick a better guy, I think, than David to head this up. And I can say officially that he is talking to just about anybody that has payment experience level A. And I think he's probably going to talk to everybody in the industry. He's just really wanting to.
Yeah. I said this a long time ago. I don't know. I'm still 50-50. Either it will happen or it won't. But I'm still willing to bet that Western Union will have some role to play. If they go cross-border, they've got the licenses. They've got licenses in they've got the PI license in Europe. The PI license basically is a payment institution license allowing them to do Ireland, UK, and EU. So they've got a license in Canada, they've got a license in the US, they've got a license for Puerto Rico and all the US territories. What about Brazil, Argentina, China, India, Australia, Middle East, Central Asian republics, Africa, so many countries in Africa.
But Faisal, isn't it a challenge, though, for Facebook, again, with the startup culture, invent it ourselves, or to work with a legacy company? What's the minutia of detail that they would have to get? Would they acquire? Would they acquire Western Union? Would they, partner? Would they really want to partner?
I think they'll partner. Why not? What's Western Union got to lose? What have Facebook got to gain?
User experience, right?
Western Union has got nothing to lose. Facebook has got everything to gain, and then Western Union has got something to gain, and then some. It's like, why didn't PayPal become a bank? Everyone asked this question, right?
Yeah.
So why doesn't Walmart or Bank of America, which is so huge, how many branches of Bank of America? Thousands.
Yeah.
Why don't they make their own chairs? No, seriously. I'm sure they'll use a lot of chairs. Why don't they make their own paper? Why don't they make their own computers?
I see your point.
Because, so I think at the end of the day, it's going to be, we are not specialists at this. We have to look at our bigger target. These people, Western Union has been doing this for decades. They know the law. They know the reporting. I think one of the targets that Facebook will go for are companies like Ideology or the companies that do basically KYC. So don't be surprised if Facebook goes and buys out a company that does identity management or identity verification.
Wow. And the strategy there, Faisal, just to be clear, would be that if they were to be the best source of identity using the combination of both Facebook and this company that they purchase,
most powerful.
What does that? Yeah, what does that do specifically for the experience, or is it reduce their cost behind the scenes?
Again. I keep coming back to small things. It's someone's birthday. I have a friend, and let's say you, Mike, your birthday. I want to send you $10. Just $10. How do I do it? I can't. Now we can talk all about Bitcoins and all that. Sure, that's good. But it's not frictionless. We're talking different platforms, et cetera, et cetera. But if I were to use, let's say, a Bitcoin-enabled platform or whatever enabled platform, doesn't matter. But if I can load money from myself, whatever bank I use, and just push out $10 in your wallet, you get $10. And how that's done, and let's assume it's a black box and something happens and you do get the $10. How cool was that? And if I want to, let's say, buy something, from Brazil, how do I buy something from Brazil? How does that person who wants to sell something from Brazil even trust me? So again, we have to look, what are we looking at? Are we looking at just person-to-person payments? Are we looking at business payments? Are we looking at merchants? Are we looking at domestic remittances, international?
Yeah.
So I think I think and again, they will start with the basic premise. Let's start with the U.S. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit and the low-risk fruit, because there's a risk involved in moving money as well.
Now, I got to ask about the cancel of Facebook gifts in regards to all this. Why do you think they cancel it?
I have a very easy answer for this thing. So every project has three things to be successful. A, you have to have the right ingredients. So let's say you want to make breakfast, you have to have the ingredients. I mean, if you don't have the ingredients, you can't make breakfast. So that's one thing that you control.
Sure.
Second thing is you have to have the time. So, if you only have 5 minutes, you can't make breakfast in 5 minutes. You need 30 minutes. So if you have 30 minutes, you can do it. That you control. But the third thing that you do not control is what the market controls, is it must be the right time. If it's evening and it's 7 p.m. and you're trying to make breakfast, you're going to have a very failed product. So I think gifts was a little bit too early. Maybe it was a testing thing. I don't know, but I just don't think it was the right time.
I think David had something to do with pulling the plug too. I think
maybe,
it definitely wasn't.
I don't know.
Wasn't rolled out the right way. Be frank.
Faisal, I have to ask this too. Partly just from going through a personal experience, just hit me on the head. But trying to transfer funds over $5,000 from one bank account to another, especially on a Friday, it hits you because it takes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. It's guaranteed to go in, and part of what that is just moving through the ACH system, and the Federal Reserve has to take the money out and then put it in the other bank account. Does it feel like an opportunity on Facebook's behalf to be essentially the store of value of dollars or other forms of currency, other currencies, and actually just be the immediate transfer of this?
So I think we've touched upon this in the earlier shows. Yeah. $37 trillion goes through the ACH every year. And this is a 2012 figure, so it's not even updated. Out of the 37 trillion, the estimate earning is between 22 and $32 billion that the banks make because of this money that's held up for 3 days. Between 22 and $32 billion. Now, either you subsidize that by the government and say, listen, here, take this money, banks, this is what you are making, and now we'll have a real-time system. Or you are not going to get into the game without the banks making some money. They're not going to let go of this money easily. It's free income for them. But the unfortunate part is it's like the U.S. is the only country in the world not using metric system. Am I correct?
Yeah.
It's like you're the only country in the world that doesn't have a real-time ACH. How sad is that?
That's sad.
Well, right? And the other thing that you mentioned.
And the only thing that I feel even more sad for you guys is because had you had a system that was real-time ACH, I think that 37 trillion a year number would be very small.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be doing 5 times more.
It would have been much higher growth. But, the thing that we have to recognize under current federal banking law, that if you are holding value for somebody, you're pretty much become a bank by default. And regulators are going to come around and say, this is what you need to do, and you have to form a bank. During the 2008...
See, banking, for Facebook to go and have a bank... And
it would hog tie them. It would hog tie them, at least initially.
Well, let's even go back a little simpler. For them to go take a banking relationship with one of the big banks is just not an issue. It's simply not an issue. The question is, do they want to get into the ACH space? I'm sure they're sitting in the boardroom and saying, well, guys, hold on. Do we really want to get into the ACH space?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like making your own computers.
So isn't it easier if Facebook just had a wallet? You load your money from your wallet. And how's that done? Well, here's an example. How many banks in the U.S.? 10,000?
Yeah.
10,000? Okay.
Just a little less. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's say 9,000. 9,000 bank accounts. Facebook goes open 9,000 bank accounts. Now, there is not a bank that Facebook does not work with from where you cannot load money onto a Facebook wallet.
Oh, yeah.
Because Facebook works with that bank. Facebook will settle with you. That means you want to load $10, you load $10 to your wallet, it's instantly loaded. You want to send money to, Jeff, Bob, whoever it is, send money to them, and they want the money deposited into their bank account. It'll be instantly deposited. Why? Because Facebook works with that bank.
So they're replacing the ACH experience, not the system itself.
It's
They're
similar.
basically mimicking a settlement system themselves
It's similar what
via a wallet.
It's similar what Dwolla is doing, and it's just the problem with Dwolla. It's just not being managed correctly, which would make me speculate whether or not Dwolla would be an acquisition target for Facebook or other companies at some point, because they do have some great technology.
Is it ACH? Is it a wallet? Is it remittances? Is it credits? Is it being able to just use, go to a website? Just like you, I personally think, if I had to fathom a guess, it's not going to be money transfer immediately.
Yeah.
I personally think it's going to be something like you go to a website, and just like you have sign in with Facebook, it's going to be pay with Facebook, a one-click pay or something.
Yeah.
Well, it can't be one click. Jeff won't let that go down with the patent.
I know. Okay, so two clicks. So what you're going to have is you're going to have something like all the famous shopping carts, Magento, Shopify, Xcart, all will have this Facebook payments plugin. So if you're a merchant, you're already selling, you already have the Visa plugin, you already have the AuthorizeNet plugin, you already have the PayPal plugin, you're now just putting in the Facebook Pay plugin.
So Faisal, how does the world look if you're PayPal or Square or Stripe when this all goes down? How does it change your world?
Oh man, the ability to pay everyone immediately is just something that is, it happens so much. It happens so much. And the only fear is that there are controls that need to be adhered, controls relating to AML and KYC. And that's where the issue is.
But what would you do if you were those companies, though? I mean, knowing that this is a potential, and I love trying to help entrepreneurs and founders and not predicting the future, just showing the path. What would you do if you were PayPal, if you were Stripe, if you were Square? Square, spent a lot of time and money doing person-to-person payments, and some would argue it's simpler.
I think if I were Facebook, I'd definitely be talking to Western Union. I don't know why I would not be talking.
But do you see a world where there's an ecosystem that allows smaller and other competing companies to either assist in this, compete against it, or somehow still exist in the ecosystem, even though this position of payments has been abdicated to Facebook?
So developing countries have a huge disadvantage when it comes to a small company trying to enter the payment space because of the fact that it's regulated, it's highly controlled by the bank, it's monopolized by the payment switches. In the developed world, a payment company, a startup company, has a lot of leeway because of the mere fact that the law allows them to get the license at a very low cost, if at all, or they have the process of signing up an agent or becoming an agent of someone who's already holding the license. And thirdly, they have this ecosystem, a middle layer, which is called the payment service provider layer, the aggregator layer, the facilitators that allow you to implement your idea on their payments platform. So that's something that's not available in the developing world.
So you're almost saying that in some ways, this whole Facebook scenario is immensely more powerful, even outside the country in areas that have had no payment systems. Is that where the real growth is?
People keep saying, Facebook is dying, etc. I seem to be using more and more of it every day. I've got Facebook addiction, and I've been using it for 7 years. And it's not maybe more, 8 years, and it's not going away anytime soon. So I think that there's a huge ecosystem. Think about it from a development point of view, developer's point of view, merchant's point of view, the payment point of view. I mean, just the international remittance is a $500 billion industry. How much can Facebook take and make of it? It's something that remains to be seen.
Yeah. All right. So we have a few minutes left. There's a couple of topics I just wanted to kind of cruise through. We'll do like a fast kind of thought process on them. The first was the YC-backed, the Y Combinator-backed Cash, which is this new product that came out. These are both new products. The first is Cash, and it seems to replicate in large part the Level Up experience, where you put in your PIN number to log in securely. You hold out the QR code scanner. They have a scanner in their side. You scan it. If you have a debit account linked up or you have cash sort of in limbo in the app, then it's free for the merchant. It's free for you. And if you have a credit card synced up, it's going to be that transaction fee associated with the brands. And if you do, they look at, I think their model is they're taking a 1% fee on merchants who do over, I believe it's 100,000.
100,000.
To me, guys, I don't know if your thought, this seems like a very difficult business to be in, especially if they don't have any magic sauce behind the scenes on distribution, which from looking at their team and just kind of poaching them a little, or just digging in a little bit, it looks like a similar application to Level Up. I think Y Combinator didn't have a play in that space. They weren't a part of a Level Up. They weren't really part of QuaPay or any other mobile payments in the retail space. So in my thought, this kind of looks to be Y Combinator's, rolled the dice in this space.
So Mike, go read up how WeChat does almost the very same thing in China.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Both
It's
at
exactly
the retail location. Absolutely.
It's already been done. And again, I try to give history. The Jack Dorsey of Vizier was Steve Case. Steve Case started AOL. He was pretty much a young guy. He looked like he was never going to stop. He went after payments. He started a product called Gratis Card, and it wasn't a mistake. Gratis meant zero to you, Mr. Merchant. We're not going to charge you anything for anything forever. But later became a transaction fee of a few cents, but no interchange. Now, this had some of the largest VCs supporting it. It was political people behind it in Washington, D.C. The media was in love with it. It had a 5-year reign. It ultimately became Revolution Money Card. And now it's little more than a file folder at American Express. Some might argue that Serve is a rebranding of Gratis and Revolution. It is, and it's all gone. What can we learn there? If you're approaching to the merchant by just saying, I'm going to give you a zero interchange, and boy, you're going to love it. This is technologists trying to go in a realm that they have no idea that they should be going into.
To their credit, I would say they're in beta, so let them run with it. Let them do something, and we'll see. It'll be interesting.
I would say if I was Y Combinator, I would hire Faisal or yourself. Raise my hand, and maybe they need better vetting of some of the investments, or a company like this needs better guidance because they're not getting the guidance or the proper vetting. And I don't want to say what they're doing is not going to work. I would say that you need to finally craft this to such a
there's a company
point.
in the Bay Area, the Kahn, Romley, and Townsend and Associates.
Yes,
yeah, I know.
here.
We'll come in just conversational consultants. Yeah, we'll come in and you let us know your thoughts. So maybe, who knows? Maybe they have some magic behind the scenes that we haven't seen yet. We'll see.
So let's revisit them after a couple of months.
Yeah, just put them on the radar. The next sort of big news as of late is Stellar. So we'll try to keep.
I'll go say it. I'll go say it the first, which is the elephant in the room, which is the fork of Ripple by the ex-founder of Ripple.
Yes. So we have on the team Jed McCaleb, sorry. And we'll try to keep this portion of it as objective as possible, especially when we only have a couple minutes left. But we have Keith Raboy, Patrick Collison, the CEO of Stripe, and Jed McCaleb, who actually built a large part of the Ripple network. So really interesting combination, really interesting team. What they want to do is virtually allocate 1% growth of the currency. They're exchanging current currencies. So if you have, and they're also paying you to sign up. So if you sign up, you get 5,000 Stellar. They're going to initialize it with 100 billion Stellars. So that sort of gives you your market share approximate. They're looking at the 95% and 5% being funding the nonprofit. So it's structured as a nonprofit. 95% of the Stellars will be distributed for free and quick growth. So essentially they're taking the stance that they're going to inject the market with capital and currency as opposed to have miners, which was done, in other currencies. 50% of the total will be distributed to people who sign up. So that's the 5,000 initialized. So sign up, no reason not to. 25% will be distributed to other nonprofits focused on the financial inclusion. And 20% will be given to Bitcoin and Ripple holders. So an interesting launching point. We won't dive into opinions. We'll save that for the next talk. I know people are sitting at the edge of their seat, just wondering what Brian is thinking and pondering.
Yeah, same here.
But we'll hold back.
I want to just leave this. Nothing about this. It's just a reading list for people for when we finally do the show on this, and hopefully the three board members of this company research DigiCash, eCash, and Beans. Very detailed. Understand why those companies failed and succeeded, but mostly failed, and understand why other currencies are doing okay. And as far as I'm concerned, let's give them a good long runway and a very objective view. But understand that history. If I was asked 2 months ago, I would have said that to begin with. Understand why Beans failed. Understand why DigiCash failed.
And on that note, we'll say thank you very much.
Oh, no, I got one more thing to say.
The book.
Love it.
So, in case people are wondering what that is, that's the bobblehead of Einstein. Am I correct?
That's a Albert Einstein bobblehead that I acquired in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian. He called out to me, and every now and then he says very important things like,
"The important thing is not to stop questioning."
Brian, we'll put that up on the site with an affiliate link.
Yes, absolutely. Get the bobblehead.
And next week we'll be talking about a book each, I guess, from the payments and finance world.
We're going to start doing reading lists because I think it's important.
All right, guys. Amazing.
Wonderful show. Wonderful.
Thank you and have a good one. Speak next week.